4 minutes from now, 16-year-old Jacob Reeves would be tackled to the floor of a suburban mall food court. But first, he had to buy the shoes.
85 lawns mowed since April. Every single dollar. They're right there.
The red Air Jordans sat on the pedestal like a prize. He'd saved every 5 and 10 from mowing neighbors' grass under the Georgia sun. His calloused hands reached out.
You've been eyeing those for a while, huh?
Since they dropped, I have exact change.
Impressive. Most kids try to use their parents' card.
Dad gave me a roof, not Jordan's. These are mine.
The receipt came out of the machine. Carla stamped it with a heavy circle and the word paid. That yellow circle was his proof. In 4 minutes, it would mean nothing. He laced them up right there in the store, slid his white headphones around his neck, and walked into the bright food court. His face was open, peaceful. He had no idea a man was about to destroy his afternoon. George Dawson had been on duty for 6 hours with nothing to do. Spotting the kid in the oversized hoodie, he felt a surge of purpose. In his training, that kid matched a profile. He didn't check the cameras. He just moved. George started walking, then ran, his hand dropping to his belt. The kid was tall but skinny. He'd seen the type before. Loose hoodie, baggy jeans, good for hiding tags.
Hey, stop right there.
Jacob didn't hear. He was nodding to a beat, one hand in his pocket, the other thumbing his phone, completely unaware. George hit him from behind, full force. The receipt shot out of Jacob's hand and fluttered across the tile. The red Jordans scuffed against the floor.
Thief. Thought you could just walk out, huh?
I am not a thief. I paid for these. The receipt, it fell. It's right there.
Near the pretzel stand, 3 teenagers pulled out their phones. One whispered, "Bro, get this." The camera light blinked. George's knee drove into Jacob's spine. The boy's cheek pressed against the cold tile, his headphones twisted, one earpiece cutting into his neck. The teenagers kept filming, faces tight, on the floor, 6 inches from Jacob's face. The receipt lay untouched. The yellow paid stamp bright as a warning. George's hand was already on his handcuffs. The crowd formed a silent circle. Nobody said a word. Carla Voss pushed through the frozen crowd, spotted the yellow receipt on the tile, and snatched it up.
He bought those Jordans from my store 5 minutes ago. He paid in cash. I have the receipt stamped paid.
Stay out of this, ma'am. This is security business.
Look at it. There is a yellow circle, and the word paid. Hez, not a thief.
George's jaw tightened. He snatched the receipt from her hand, crumpled it, and tossed it onto the floor.
Hez banned from the property. Permanently.
I saved for 8 months. Now, am banned forever? This isn't fair.
George scrawled Jacob's name across the permanent ban notice, ripped it from the clipboard, and thrust it toward his face. Jacob pushed himself up, legs shaking. He walked toward the exit without looking back. The notice crumpled in his fist. Outside, he sat on a metal bench, the ban notice still in his hand, staring at nothing. The red Jordans looked brand new on his feet. He left the bench when the sun started to drop. The walk home took 40 minutes. The ban notice a crumpled knot in his fist. Maya heard the front door. She looked up from her laptop and saw her brother's face. Something had broken inside him.
Jacob, talk to me. You look like you've been crying.
I can't. Not yet. Just get to my room.
He brushed past her, climbed the stairs, and closed his door without a word. The lawn mowing flyer on his bulletin board felt like a joke now. He collapsed onto his bed, headphones on, staring at the ceiling. 40 miles away, in her dorm room, Maya doom-scrolled through Twitter and froze. A clip from a mall food court. She recognized the shoes.
No, that's Jacob. That's my little brother.
She didn't text. She called her father. Edward Reeves answered on the second ring, his voice calm. Maya's cracked. She sent the video. Edward Reeves held the phone, watching his son pinned to the floor. His jaw didn't move. His eyes didn't blink. He didn't sleep. At 5 a.m., he was still in his study, the video frozen on his son's face. He pulled on his usual flannel, jeans, work boots. No suit, no entourage, just a father. The drive took 20 minutes. He parked the modest sedan in the far lot and walked. George Dawson was at the main entrance, clipboard in hand, checking IDs, his face still red from yesterday's exertion.
Straight ahead. Don't slow down. He's just a man with a clipboard.
Another early bird. Cheap flannel. Probably can't afford a thing in here.
The morning was cold. George's breath clouded in the dry air. He resented every early shift.
That's him. The man who put his knee on my son.
George looked up. The man in flannel was closing the distance. He didn't look like a shopper. He looked like someone who had business. By the time George's hand stopped tapping his clipboard, Edward Reeves was 5 feet away, looking him in the eye. George's hand came up, palm out. The gesture was practiced, automatic. Every syllable he'd been taught to expect in moments like this.
Mall's not open yet. Private property. Come back at 10.
I am not here to shop. I have business with management.
Management doesn't take walk-ins. You need an appointment.
Edward reached into his back pocket, pulled out a worn leather wallet. Not a badge, not a gun, just a name.
My name is Edward Reeves. Tell Malcolm Chen I am here.
Probably some vendor with a gripe about a late shipment. They all think they're celebrities.
George didn't take the ID. He didn't even turn his head. He just planted his feet wider and folded his arms.
You'll let me through, right now, or you'll regret it.
Edward didn't wait. He walked forward, forcing George to stumble sideways. The clipboard clattered against the door frame. Edward Reeves stepped into the mall. Edward walked through the food court, his boots hitting the same tile where Jacob's face had been pressed. He didn't look down. The management office sat at the end of a carpeted hallway. A brass plaque read, "Mall Management." He pushed the door. A young receptionist looked up from her screen. Before she could speak, Edward cut through the pleasantries.
I am Edward Reeves. I need to see Malcolm Chen, now.
She hesitated, hand hovering over the phone. Then Edward added 2 words that changed her expression. Reeves Holdings. The inner office door opened. Malcolm Chen, slim in a gray suit, stood with a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes.
Mr. Reeves, I am Malcolm Chen. We didn't have you on the schedule.
Edward didn't shake the offered hand. He walked past Malcolm into the office and sat down in the guest chair.
I am not here for a schedule. I am here about the boy your security guard tackled yesterday.
Malcolm's smile dropped. He closed the door slowly, his mind cycling through 100 worst-case scenarios. Not one of them was right. Malcolm settled behind his desk, clasped his hands, and pulled a standard binder from the drawer, the one they used for complaints.
Our security team follows strict protocol. If there was an incident, it was handled by the book. I assure you.
I am not here for assurances. I am here for the incident report. The one your guard filed after he tackled a 16-year-old boy.
This isn't a complaint. He's not here for a voucher. Something's wrong.
I am the boy's father. Is that authorized enough?
Malcolm's throat tightened. The man in flannel wasn't a lawyer or a journalist. He was a father.
You've seen the video. Half the country has. I need to see what your guard filed after he put his knee on my son's spine.
The situation is under review. Our policies require confidentiality during investigations.
You've had 18 hours. Your investigation should be finished by now.
The clock on the wall ticked. Malcolm's hand hovered over his mouse. He didn't click anything. Edward watched and waited.
Let me be clear. I am not just a father. I am the principal of Reeves Holdings. This mall It's my building.
Malcolm's hand froze. The mouse slipped from his grip, skittering across the desk. Reeves Holdings wasn't just a name on a lease. It was the name on the deed.
You are Edward Reeves, I thought. We never...
You thought I was a vendor with a gripe. I know what your guard thought he saw. Now pull up the lease ledger. Every tenant, every store.
The lease ledger? That's confidential. I'd need...
You need your job. Pull it up, now.
Malcolm's fingers stumbled over the keyboard. The screen flickered, then a spreadsheet bloomed. 14 rows, each a store inside the mall.
Scroll down. I want to see every single name.
14 names. The sneaker store, the food court, the anchor stores. Every last one leased from a subsidiary of Reeves Holdings. Malcolm stared at the screen as if it were a loaded gun. The man in flannel owned every floor tile his guard had knelt on.
The sneaker store, where my son paid cash. It leases from me. The food court tile he was pinned to. My tile.
Edward leaned back, the weight of the room shifting completely onto Malcolm's side. The spreadsheet shimmered between them.
I could call every lease. Tomorrow, this mall goes dark, but that punishes the floor workers, not the guard.
Then what? What do you want?
I want every guard in this mall retrained. De-escalation, not tackles. Bias certification, not profiles.
Retrained. That's not in the budget. The corporate office won't approve.
Budget isn't your problem. I'll fund it. This isn't a negotiation. It's a restructuring.
Malcolm opened his mouth, then closed it. The man in flannel wasn't asking. He was telling.
My son did nothing wrong. He earned those shoes. I am going to make sure no other kid goes through what he did. That starts here.
Edward stood, his chair scraping the floor. The meeting was over. Malcolm would spend the next week wondering if his career had just ended or just begun. He stopped at the door, one hand on the frame. Malcolm was already reaching for his phone to call corporate. Edward didn't let him.
This isn't just about this mall. I am mandating de-escalation and bias certification across all 47 Reeves properties. Every guard.
47 malls. That's thousands of guards. The logistics alone.
Logistics are my problem. You'll coordinate with my legal team. They'll have the new contract language by Monday.
Malcolm's mouth opened to argue, but the phrase legal team killed the words in his throat.
If any tenant pushes back, remind them their lease can be renegotiated. I am not bluffing.
I'll start the coordination today. Whatever you need.
Edward gave a single nod and pulled the door open. The meeting was truly over now.
Now comes the hard part. Telling Jacob.
But that would have to wait. First, he had to set the machine in motion. The training wouldn't build itself. Malcolm, still clutching his phone, called after Edward as he stepped into the hallway. Wait, what about the guard? What happens to Dawson? Edward stopped. His shoulders didn't rise. He didn't turn around, but his voice cut back through the door.
I am not firing him.
Not firing after all this?
He'll be the first guard through the training. If he can learn, he stays. If not, that's on him.
Edward walked away, his steps echoing down the corridor. Malcolm stood frozen, the phone slipping from his fingers. 20 miles away, Jacob Reeves lay in the dark, the glow of his phone painting shadows on the ceiling. A comment under the video read, "Just another thug. Should have stayed in his own neighborhood."
85 lawns, paid in full, and I am still just a thug to them.
He placed the phone face down. The shoes sat at the foot of his bed. He didn't sleep for a long time. The school day was a blur of stairs and silence. He felt the video play every time someone looked at him. No one sat near him at lunch.
When he got home, he threw his backpack on the floor and sank onto his bed. The shoes he'd been so proud of now felt like evidence in a crime he didn't commit.
A knock came, soft and steady. Edward's voice through the wood.
Not now, Dad.
I am coming in anyway, son.
Edward sat on the bed. Jacob refused to look at him.
He's going to give me another speech about turning the other cheek.
I am not going to give you a speech. I want to know, what would justice look like to you?
I don't know. I want that guard to know what it feels like to be pinned down. I want everyone to stop looking at me like I am something wrong.
Edward didn't answer. He just stayed, letting Jacob's breathing slow. The shoes sat on the floor between them.
I am not going to scream or sue. I already went to the mall. I looked that guard in the eye and walked past him.
You went there. What did he say?
He tried to stop me, called it private property. I told him I had business with management. Then I told the manager exactly who I am.
Who are you to them?
The man who owns every lease in that building. 14 stores. All of them lease from Reeves Holdings. I could shut them down tomorrow.
But you didn't. Why not?
Because I am going to make sure that guard and every guard across all 47 of my malls has to go through de-escalation training. No more profiling, no more knee on a kid's back.
What about the one who tackled me?
He'll be the first through the training. If he can't change, he's done, but I won't become him to beat him. That's not justice.
Jacob stared at his father, then slowly leaned into Edward's shoulder. The shoes stayed on the floor, but something in the room had shifted. By midnight, Edward's study looked like a war room. Contracts, cost projections, and the faces of strangers who'd spend the next year turning his anger into action.
I understand the cost concern. I am not asking. Every guard gets de-escalation certification, or the contract is void.
The head of security operations argued logistics. Thousands of guards, dozens of states, no existing curriculum. Edward's reply was already waiting.
Then we build one, an independent nonprofit, fully funded. They design it, we mandate it. No guard gets a badge without it.
The line went quiet, then a sigh. Then a single number, a budget that would have paid for a small school. Edward repeated it back without flinching. He hung up and turned to the stack of amended contracts. The security clauses were already highlighted. He signed each one. Then he pulled a separate document from his drawer. The Retail Justice Initiative, a name he'd chosen late the night before, anonymously funded.
No one will ever know my name is on this. But every guard trained will carry a piece of my son's pain. That's enough.
He signed. The pen didn't shake. Outside the window, the sky was turning gray. The machine was built. By the time the sun rose, the contracts were filed. The curriculum was funded, and Edward Reeves sat alone in his chair, staring at the photo of his son. 2 weeks after the contracts were signed, Angela Hayes stood in a rented conference room at the mall, facing 12 security guards in plastic chairs.
I am Angela Hayes. You are here because a kid in this mall was tackled for buying shoes. We're going to talk about what happened and why it never should have.
She clicked a remote, and the viral clip appeared on the screen behind her. The blurred food court, the tackle, the knee on the spine. A few guards shifted in their seats. One coughed. George Dawson, in the back row, didn't move.
This is a setup. They're gonna make an example out of me.
Somebody in this room was involved. I am not here to point fingers. I am here to show you how a split second of assumption can destroy a life. Who wants to role-play the first scenario?
No hands went up. George stared at the floor, arms locked across his chest, jaw tight.
I need a volunteer. Otherwise, I'll pick.
I am not playing any games. You want to teach me something. Do it from your notebook.
Angela didn't flinch. She just nodded and wrote something on her clipboard. The training had only begun, and the hardest guard in the room was already digging in. Over the next month, Angela's techniques rolled out across 47 malls. Clips of guards role-playing de-escalation began to surface online. Open hands, calm voices. One video got 2 million views. A guard stepping back, hands open, talking a teenager down instead of grabbing him. The comments began to turn. A local news reporter, tracing the rapid reforms, pulled the corporate filings. Reeves Holdings owned the building. The boy's father was the principal. The headline broke on a Wednesday morning. Mall cop's victim is son of mall owner, and that owner just mandated bias training across 47 malls. Social media exploded. The original tackle video, the new training clips, and the headline were spliced into a single timeline that no one could scroll past. A trending comment read, "His dad owned the whole mall and didn't sue. He changed the system instead. That's power." The anchor clarified, the donor funding the curriculum was anonymous, but sources confirmed the mandate came directly from Reeves Holdings. Edward's name was never spoken. On every platform, the story of the quiet billionaire and his lawn-mowing son replaced the original outrage. The conversation had changed. Outside the mall, a second crowd gathered, not to film a tackle, but to protest the old policy and praise the new one. But in a quiet house, a teenage boy still couldn't wear his new shoes without thinking of the cold tile. The headlines didn't change that. The Retail Justice Initiative launched nationally, Angela Hayes at the podium. Funded by an anonymous donor, its de-escalation curriculum would be adopted by firms nationwide within a year. Jacob, in his room, saw the segment on his phone. The logo was the same one he'd glimpsed on his father's desk. He stared until the screen went dark.
He didn't sue. He didn't scream. He built this.
He pulled the shoebox from the closet. Inside, the red Jordans sat untouched, the receipt with the yellow paid stamp still crisp.
85 lawns, one receipt, and he used it to change everything.
A mall courier arrived with a simple envelope. Inside, a letter from management. The permanent ban had been revoked, effective immediately. Jacob read the letter twice. The words blurred on the second pass.
I can walk back in there, not as a victim, as his son.
Edward was at the kitchen table when Jacob walked in, the letter in his hand. Neither spoke. Edward simply nodded, and Jacob saw the tiredness in his father's eyes. The receipt and the letter sat on the table between them. Two small pieces of paper that proved a boy was not a thief, and a father would move mountains without ever raising his voice. The next morning, Jacob and Maya walked through the same glass doors. A greeter nodded. The ban was gone.
You sure you want to do this alone?
I need to. Just wait by the fountain.
He walked into the food court alone. The tile was the same. The pretzel stand was the same. He stopped on the exact spot.
Right here. This is where he put his knee on my back.
He closed his eyes for 5 seconds. Then he opened them and walked to the sneaker store. He bought a bottle of water with the loose change in his pocket. No one stopped him. No one stabbed him. No one stared. The receipt was already in his pocket. A mile away, in a dim security office, George Dawson sat alone. The monitors showed empty corridors. In his lap, a letter. He'd written and rewritten it a dozen times. "Dear Jacob," it started. The rest was a mess of crossed-out words. He didn't send it. Maybe he never would. But for the first time, his hands shook not with anger, but something harder to name. After the session where he finally raised his hand, Angela Hayes called him forward. The room went still.
You didn't run from it. That took something.
She handed him the certificate. His hands trembled as he took the glossy paper.
All those hours, and I still can't say it, but I can write it.
That evening, in the break room, he scratched out a final draft. The words were simple. The pen shook. He sealed the envelope, wrote Jacob Reeves on the front, and pushed back from the table. The mailbox on the corner was cold, chipped blue paint. He stood there a long moment. He dropped the letter into the slot and didn't wait for a response. He just walked back toward the mall.
This doesn't fix anything, but it's a start.
The letter would take 3 days to cross town. He wouldn't be waiting for the answer. The morning was quiet. Edward Reeves sat at the kitchen table, a newspaper open beside his coffee. The headline read, "Retail Justice Initiative reports first-year success, all thanks to anonymous donor." Below the fold, a photo of Angela Hayes training a room of guards. No mention of the boy who started it. No mention of him. Edward set the paper down. The coffee steamed. He looked across the counter. A small framed photo of Jacob at age 8, missing a tooth, smiling. The morning sun hit the glass. He let himself smile.
I may never see the curriculum I funded. I don't need to.
The coffee grew cold. The newspaper lay folded. The photo remained. He picked up the frame, thumb brushing the glass. Somewhere out there, a guard was learning to step back instead of tackle. That was enough. In his room, Jacob opened the shoebox one last time. The receipt was all that remained inside. He had bought a small black frame. It felt heavier than it should.
85 lawns. 1 yellow circle. Proof. I was never what he said.
He placed the receipt behind the glass and hung it on the wall beside the lawn mowing flyer. Then he slid his white headphones on and walked out of the room. The lawnmower waited on the front lawn. It always did. He started the mower, the Jordans on his feet, and moved forward. Behind him, the mall stood under a clear blue sky. The same doors, but not the same boy. The receipt hung on his wall. The training was everywhere. And somewhere, a letter was still crossing town, paid in full. Pass it on.